Good morning. My name is Byron Klaus, and I'm the professor for the higher ed finance course that you're going to be taking shortly. I just wanted to send you this video to just introduce myself and to give you just an overview verbally of this particular course. So, as I said, my name is Byron Klaus. I've been teaching in the Center for Leadership Studies several years. I'm retired and have been a pastor and in higher education in higher education since 1980. So I spent about 20 years as a faculty member and administrator at Vanguard University of Southern California in Costa Mesa, California. Then I moved in 1999 to become the president of the Assemblies of God Theological Seminary in Springfield, Missouri. Spent 16 years there, retiring in 2015. And since then, I've been doing a variety of things. I was interim president at the University of Valley Forge. I do interim pastoring, but also one of the central things that I do is being part of the Intrust Center for Theological Schools, which is a Lilly-funded initiative that works with governance primarily in theological schools, but certainly has application to all university contexts. And in that role, I have spent a lot of time working with presidents, administrators, boards on a variety of issues. And this one, higher ed finance, is one that obviously is critical in higher ed today because the presenting problem in most higher ed challenges has to do with finances. So, just a little bit about the course. I really have a basic belief that many times we have created silos in university contexts. What has occurred is that basically we have this adage: the faculty says we'll teach, and looks to the administration to simply raise money. What happens in that situation, is, as well intended as it may be, is that not everybody has a 35,000 foot level of what higher ed finances really are. And that causes a lot of difficulties, misunderstandings, and certainly does not harness the wisdom of a variety of people who, particularly in higher ed with its deep commitment to camaraderie and collegiality and due process, we don't get that when we don't work with a common set of understandings about higher ed finance. So one of the things I want to do in this course is to give you a basic understanding of higher ed finance. Now this course, in case you're worrying, this course is not about accounting, okay? This course looks at primarily one critical function of higher ed finance, and that is, where does the money come from? What are our revenue streams? And looks at those revenue streams and helps you understand where the money comes from to do the work that an institution does. Obviously, there are other areas. The accounting area. How do we do expenses? I mean, all those things are certainly critical to all of the operational side of higher ed finance. But I'm going to look primarily at where does the money come from, and how do we raise it so that it's sustainable. So there are a number of goals that we have in this course, and they're listed in your syllabus as analyzing the key funding sources in higher ed finance. So what are the key funding sources? There are basically three buckets. Tuition revenue, which comes from students. Gifts and grants, which comes from our usual understanding of fundraising. And then the third is legacy gifts or endowments, okay? So those are the three basic buckets that we're going to look at. Obviously, they get broken down into a variety of things, but if you can understand those three basic buckets, you've got a good grasp on where money comes from. We're going to appraise the current challenges to key funding sources in higher ed finance. For example, traditionally, tuition revenue has been a big source probably the predominant source of revenue. But in keeping with that, all too often, universities have relied on what's called traditional undergrad students, TUG. And the fact is by 2026, there's going to be a cliff that we are going to fall off on because the usual pool of students, 18 to 20-year-olds, just doesn't exist in the numbers that it usually exists. So tuition revenue is a really big issue right now. And if you're over-relying on a singular revenue stream, i.e. tuition, you're in real trouble. In fact, the Council of Christian Colleges and Universities reports that 85% of its schools in this last year did not reach its enrollment goals. That means that when you're looking at a revenue stream that is half of your operational budget, you are in real deep trouble. So we're going to look at that. Another piece in the whole tuition revenue piece is that what we used to call non-traditional students are now the larger component of all students. So that group of people who don't go to college right out of high school, that people who are 30 years old have a community college degree, 40 years old and have a lot of units and a lot of majors. Those are the predominant number of students in the pool today. So what does that mean to this critical revenue stream called tuition? Funding sources has to do with, donors, particularly big donors, saying, I don't like what my university is doing anymore. I don't like what my alma mater is doing. I'm not going to give them any money anymore. So, there is just huge issues facing higher education. If you're a state school, state schools are at the whim of what state legislatures say is the funding formula, and those funding formulas changed based on who's in the governor's office and who runs the state legislature. So we're also going to look at comparing models of effective fundraising. So what I'm going to do is put you on a search on the web for effective fundraising. I'm going to give you a start. The websites and the case studies and people who want to sell you services are rampant. And while you may not be in a position where you're having to do with fundraising, you can find these things all over the web, and I'll give you a start because I really want you to get into what's going on in fundraising right now. You'll evaluate those strategies, and you'll propose initiatives for key fundraising sources. So one of the things you'll find about the assignments I have in each of the units, I'm presupposing that one day you are going to be in a position in higher education. And it doesn't matter where you are in administration, in higher ed, you're going to have to be thinking about funding. You're going to have to be thinking about how it is I'm going to get the revenue to do what my slice of the university mission is. So my assignments are always about situations that you're going to be in. You're a VP of advancement. You have an institution that is not raising enough money. You are in the red every year. And you are tasked with convincing not only donors, but fellow administration and an executive committee of why we need to pivot and do certain kinds of strategies. So all of my assignments are based on that sort of thing. The only assignment that may not be that is Unit 3, which is the unit that we spend most of our time on just getting the lingo down on finance and budget. Things like net revenue and all those types of terms that are part of the insider track of understanding higher ed finance. There'll be a reading. One of the books is about university budgets, and it is just as good a simple piece at getting terms down. And that particular unit will be more about just the operational side, just so you get the language down. So Unit 1 really starts with a lot of reading. It is the most reading. It's 3 weeks long, but it's the most reading that you'll do just to get a big picture. In Unit 2, we'll start your investigation into the three major buckets, sort of a deep dive. Uh, there'll be numbers of webinars that I'll show you that I've been a part of. They'll just give you basic understanding. Unit 3 is the operational side, as I said, which will be more of the ticky-tacky, terms-oriented sort of thing. Unit 4, you'll begin your work on finding strategies that you could pitch to executive committee of a board, executive committee of colleagues on the President's Council. And then Unit 5, you will be presenting that to your colleagues. I don't know at the time of this taping whether or not, we're going to be working on a more independent study because there's only 2 of you right now. We'll see what happens in the next couple days. But I really want to be able to have regular conversations with you. We can schedule those both with all of the students who happen to end up in the class or individually. One of the things that I want to make sure you understand is you can access me anytime. My email is there on the syllabus. But when you email me at Northwest University email, please copy me at my Gmail address, Byron Klaus, BYRONKLAUS, at gmail.com. The reason for that is that Gmail comes in on my phone and I can get a quicker answer to you because I don't check Northwest email as regularly as, I'll do it every day, but still Gmail gets to me much quicker. I want to, obviously, particularly as we get to units 4 and 5, one of the things that I want you to feel open to do, and you're free to do, is propose to me an alternative to my suggestions on the assignments that will serve you best. So if there's an alternative, some place you want to go, a direction you want to go that serves you better, particularly for maybe your dissertation, just let me know. Let's work it out. This is doctoral work. One of my goals is to help you not just get a course done, but to see that if that can integrate and be the initial work you do on a chapter or a topic that is really necessary for your final dissertation research. So my assignments are very applicational. So I'm assuming you are headed towards a position in a higher ed institution. And I am trying to get you to use this research for getting ready for the kinds of presentations you are going to have to make. One of the things about doctoral research is obviously looking at, you have a lot of footnotes, a lot of endnotes, you have a lot of current juried journal work, peer review. I get it. You need to do those sorts of things. But you're in a higher ed cohort, and that means that someday you are going to have to be doing the work we're talking about. My goal is to help you realize that when you get the PhD that has a higher ed emphasis, you actually don't get a job because you have a PhD. You get a job because you can do a job. And after 16 years as a president, and now 5 to 7 years in governance work, I can tell you that the challenges are great and the skills you need to be constantly refining. And, peer review journals are one aspect of higher ed. But when it comes to finance, which is the presenting problem in most higher education situations, you really need to be aware and be able to speak well into the challenges that institutions are facing right now. So I'll be sending you an email that will propose our first Zoom meeting where we can sort of settle when we'll have regular Zoom meetings. Just want to get us all on the same page so we have our dates set for the entire course. So I look forward to meeting you. As I say, I've been teaching here at Northwest for several years now with my good friend Earl Krebs, and I look forward to meeting you and seeing you. Some of you I've met before, others I haven't. So I look forward to seeing you soon. God bless you.